Boy, I gotta admit, this is a tough one. This is a tough call. Donald Trump tweeted that he was supposed to meet with leaders of the Taliban and the president of Afghanistan at Camp David just before 9/11. And when I heard that, I was like, whoa, wait, what? Just before? What are you doing? Well, it was to broker some kind of peace agreement and formally end the war in Afghanistan, or at least something to that effect. Well, apparently Trump called it off because the Taliban took credit for an attack that killed innocent people, including an American soldier. And now the whole thing, it's just very confusing, right? Here's the thing. The left is outraged. I don't want to say the left, but a lot of people on the left, many far leftist resistance types, are going, harumph, how dare Trump court the Taliban at Camp David just before 9/11. And I can understand why they're angry, because my first reaction was very much like, that seems crazy. However, what makes it such a difficult call is that I think ending the war in Afghanistan, bringing our troops home, takes priority and takes precedent. Could Trump have chosen a better time? Perhaps. I gotta admit, I just don't know. So while I'll admit it, I'm kind of shocked he would do that. I think about the potential results, which would have been an end to the war in Afghanistan. Here's the thing. You got a lot of people on the left saying, oh, Trump's lying, he's making it up, he wasn't going to meet with anybody. Listen, man, for the past week or so, we've known Afghan withdrawal is expected. We're talking about doing this. And if we do, we need to know what's going to happen next, which it says, to me, it makes complete sense that Trump would have a meeting with the Afghan president and the Taliban to figure out what comes next. I don't know most of what's going on in Afghanistan, and neither do you. Most people don't. It's a lot of classified information. There's a lot of people on the ground who know better than I do. So it's hard for me to get extremely angry and say it was the wrong choice. I think sometimes being a leader, well, there are difficult decisions that have to be made. And that means you might have just kind of a lose-lose. Afghanistan was a mistake, at least in my opinion. And again, I don't know a whole lot of, again, there's a lot of classified information, so I can only assume, based on what we know and everything, it was the wrong call. But now we're faced with a situation where we're going to be withdrawing. We're going to be pulling out, potentially, if the New York Times reports, 5,400 troops in 135 days. And if that's going to happen, then there's got to be peace agreements. And perhaps Trump said it's got to be now. This is the time to do it. Well, he canceled those meetings. So I don't know what's right. All I know is ending the war would be a really, really good thing. Here's the thing. People are slamming Trump for going to meet with the Taliban, right? And they do the same thing to Tulsi Gabbard because she went to meet with Assad. Anyone who is a smart leader knows diplomacy matters. But think about this, okay? They get mad at Trump for meeting with Kim Jong-un, for meeting with Vladimir Putin, for meeting with the Taliban. Well, what are you supposed to do? Declare war? If you're going to stop the conflict, you have to talk. And so I can certainly be kind of offended or angry that it would happen just before 9/11. At the end, I'm like, okay, well, then you better get it done. Okay, you better get this withdrawal, started. You better figure out a peace agreement. In this instance, it fell apart. So no, they're not going to be meeting, whatever. Why is everybody so angry? Chill out. Even Politico saying it would have been extraordinary. Here's the thing. Daryl Davis, famous de-radicalization, race relations expert. If you're not familiar, he pulled over 200 men out of the Klan. He went to speak at an event I was sponsoring. Antifa showed up and protested, and they called him a white supremacist. So you see the mentality these people have. They don't want peace. They want war. They want violence, and they want conflict. Am I angry that Trump was going to meet these people on 9/11? You betcha. I couldn't believe when I heard this tweet this morning. Do I want peace more? Yes. I'm willing to be angry if it means we can have peace and bring our soldiers home. They shouldn't have been there in the first place. How about this? Peace by any means necessary. Not necessarily. Okay, I'm kidding. That's what they say, though. Antifa says by any means necessary. Okay, what you're saying is violence. What I'm saying is maybe we will be offended. Maybe it was, I don't know why he chose this time. But we know that the talks of withdrawal have been on the table, and maybe that's all we get. Fine. Let me be angry if it means there's no more war in Afghanistan. We shouldn't have been there in the first place. Let's read the story from Politico. They say Trump says he canceled secret Camp David meetings with Taliban leaders, Afghan president. The Sunday talks, had they happened, would have been an extraordinary moment in the history of the United States and Afghanistan. They say President Donald Trump on Saturday said he had canceled secret meetings with Taliban leaders and the Afghan president set to take place this weekend at Camp David, while also calling off the ongoing peace negotiations with the Taliban after the Islamist militia admitted responsibility for a recent attack in which a U.S. soldier died. The announcement, delivered on Twitter, astonished much of Washington and raised questions about the future of the U.S. in Afghanistan if the peace talks do not get back on track. But the fact that a Camp David session was in the works at all underscored Trump's belief that he's a master one-on-one negotiator and can strike deals with even the toughest U.S. enemies. He said, unbeknownst to almost everyone, the major Taliban leaders and separately the president of Afghanistan were going to secretly meet with me in Camp David on Sunday. They were coming to the United States tonight, Trump tweeted. Unfortunately, in order to build false leverage, they admitted to an attack in Kabul that killed one of our great soldiers and 11 other people. I immediately canceled the meeting and called off peace negotiations. What kind of people would kill so many in order to seemingly strengthen their bargaining position? Trump continued. They didn't. They only made it worse. If they cannot agree to a ceasefire during these very important peace talks and would even kill 12 innocent people, then they probably don't have the power to negotiate a meaningful agreement anyway. How many more decades are they willing to fight? It was a difficult Saturday to verify Trump's stated reason for calling off the talks. The Taliban have long scoffed at the idea of a ceasefire, and they have been behind many recent attacks in Afghanistan. Separately, there were early reports that the Afghan president, Ashraf Ghani, was postponing his plans to visit the U.S. Radio Free Europe Radio Liberty, cited an unnamed Afghan cabinet minister, saying the U.S. delayed Ghani's visit because he was unhappy with a draft peace agreement between the U.S. and the Taliban. The talks, had they happened, would have been an extraordinary moment in the history of the U.S. and Afghanistan. The U.S. invaded Afghanistan after 9/11 attacks, the anniversary of which is Wednesday, overthrowing the Taliban government there because it was harboring al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden. Plans for the secret talks were held very tightly inside the Trump administration, and officials reached Saturday night would not say who would have attended. Attendees would likely have included Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Zalmay Khalilzad, the U.S. envoy for Afghan reconciliation. It's not clear if John Bolton, Trump's hawkish national security advisor, would have attended given a recent report that he's been largely sidelined on the issue. That's great. Bolton is a warmonger, and it seems that Trump is listening to his base and to pundits, whether for good or bad. I'm all for not having more war. So I wonder, one of the biggest smears Tulsi Gabbard has faced is that she met with Bashar al-Assad. And why did she do it? Well, they claim she's an apologist. That's absurd. You need to talk to people to get the fighting to stop. And that was her intention. And I think she was right. I don't know if meeting with Assad was fruitful or the correct thing to do, but I applaud her efforts and the principle that she's willing to show, that she's willing to live by if it means ending these wars. I don't know why we're in Afghanistan. I mean, I know why they said we are. There's a lot of conspiracies, there's a lot of theories, there's a lot of beliefs as to why we're doing it. What I can say is it seems to be fruitless and expensive for the American people. Now, I understand that the economy is boosted when we build weapons and we have weapons and it allows us to secure our position as the global superpower. I don't know if that is philosophically and morally the right way we should be moving forward. It is a challenge. It is. I understand that a lot of the American way of life is built upon America enforcing, certain rules around the world, which I don't want to get into the complicated mess of what it is, but there's things like the Qatar-Turkey pipeline, the Gazprom natural gas monopoly, things like that you've got to really look into. And I'll admit, I was talking to Steven Crowder about this, and I said I like Tulsi because I really, really detest and despise that we send our troops off to foreign countries for regime change wars, and we have them sitting in the Middle East for God knows why. And he said that he thinks once the president, this is what Crowder said, that when the president gets into office, they can be an idealist, they can be all, hey, we're going to end war, but once they see those documents and they realize this is how bad it really is, they realize that we have no choice but to be doing what we're doing. I don't necessarily agree, but I understand the perspective. And I would say I mostly agree. However, I think what happens is when you get into office, you see the power you have, and you're like, we could give up this power. We could. But isn't it better to have the power? There are a lot of people who believe in free speech and democracy and all these great constitutional things, but then they get a ton of power and they refuse to give it up because they're like, if it's not me, it'll be someone else, and at least I'm the good guy. And that's what everyone always says. And maybe it's true. Maybe it's true. I don't know for sure. I don't know what necessarily the right thing or wrong thing is because I don't have all the information, and most people don't. What I can say, however, is if Trump is going to get us out of Afghanistan, he will be one of the best presidents of this generation. I don't want to say the best, but I'm actually paraphrasing something to the effect of what Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks said. So don't take that as my opinion. Cenk tweeted out, if Trump avoids war with Iran, he will be a better president than George W. Bush. Obama couldn't get us out of the Middle East. In fact, he sent more troops. If Trump can pull it off, then I think he will have been better, at least in a lot of ways. It's probably not apt to say he would be one of the best necessarily because there's a lot of factors involved in being the best. There are some things Trump is good at, some things he's bad at, but ending war for me is a huge... Look, I feel like when it comes to what we do in this country and how we live and the things we buy, war is the pinnacle, the most dangerous and alarming thing, okay? We can build spaceships to the moon. We can build spaceships to Mars. But if we blow each other up, we'll never get there. And so de-escalating these tensions and making sure there's peace is extremely important. Now, I recognize the U.S. presence in Afghanistan may actually help maintain that peace, remembering that, we were attacked on 9/11 and the Taliban was harboring some of these people who plotted against us. So I can't tell you what the right thing or the wrong thing is. All I know is based on the information I have, it definitely seems like we could do better. And it would be better if we left. It would be better if we left. I was going to say if we were to leave, and then I mixed them up. So it's actually a weird and interesting position. There are a lot of people who just say no war, period. I tend to be one of these people who thinks war is just straight bad, for the most part. However, I also understand the nuance. Do we want Russia to fill that gap in Afghanistan? That's a challenging question. It is. And that's why these peace talks would be extremely important. If what Trump is saying is true, and I don't necessarily believe him, but I will admit when it comes to a lot of war issues, he kind of just blurts it out. If what he's saying is true, then we absolutely need an agreement between the Taliban and the current Afghan president. We need to know that, it won't, fall to some other power or China would move in. And it would probably be a good thing to have these talks. It also seems like if this is true, Trump made the right call. Because there is no leverage to be gained by committing an attack while you're supposed to be engaging in an agreement that will bring, admittedly, more prosperity to all parties involved, even if it's not perfect. I guess in the end, what really matters is that no matter what Trump does, he will be slammed and mocked and ridiculed. And now we have this top trend. Check this out. Taliban Trump. Let's refresh it, see what it says. If it loads. You can see people are saying, Trump shoving his head up his right. You get it. You can see that people are criticizing, the right because Rashida Tlaib has met with certain groups and now Trump is meeting with them. Trump had a tweet. Okay, why is Twitter doing this? I don't care about this tweet. Trump had they're making fun of it anyway. So there you go, whatever. Trump had a tweet in 2012 where he mocked Obama for negotiating with the Taliban. And now Trump himself is doing it. And perhaps it's true that once Trump got into office, he actually saw and said, okay, we got to do this. So here, I'm not gonna make this one much longer. Look, the challenge. The big challenge here is. Oh wow! Look, Tulsi Gabbard pops up. The big challenge I see is, are we upset and offended that he was going to host the Taliban just before 9/11? Honestly, I am. I do. I think that's a disgrace. However, if it was the only option, I just would rather see the withdrawal. I'd rather see a peace agreement. I'd rather see the fighting stop. And if today was the day it had to be, well, then I don't know what else to say. Sure, I can be angry and I can be offended and all that stuff, but what are the tangible results? For now, nothing. It doesn't seem like there's going to be any tangible results other than Trump tweeting it out. Some people are accusing him of trying to distract the media once again. I don't think that's the case. Politico reported on this, but I just don't know. What I can say is I'm willing to be shocked and offended if it means an end to the war in Afghanistan and our troops are coming home. I don't know if I'm right. I don't know how else to say it, but I can say this is a tough one. Initially I was pretty angry. You know what I mean? I actually recorded a couple minutes before, stopped and started over because I was thinking about it and I was just like, isn't the end result better Isn't it better to be angry and to be offended if it means we actually can end the war in Afghanistan and get our troops back? I think it is. And so I think it's fair to say, I don't know about you guys if you're upset that he would do this, but if the end result is worth it, then it's maybe worth being upset. I honestly don't know. All I know is war sucks. I like Tulsi Gabbard. There have been a lot of really funny points. A lot of conservatives have said I can't remember where I saw this. It was a American conservative website or something, and they said Trump needs to replace Bolton with Tulsi Gabbard, and I'm like, yes, absolutely. I think Trump's going to win. I think he's going to win 2020. If the best thing we can get is Tulsi Gabbard as replacing John Bolton, that would be great. And then even bringing on Yang in an economic capacity, that would be truly incredible. But we'll see what happens. Man, I don't even like making videos talking about overt war issues. You know what I mean? It's very complicated. Most of you know my position. I'm very much where Tulsi's at. That's why I like her. It's just like, stop, America, stop. We don't need to be going into these countries and doing these things. And there may be some perspective that we do if we want to maintain our position as a superpower. You know what, man? Is it really worth it? Maybe it is, because we don't know the alternative. But I lean towards it being a bad idea. Anyway, let me know what you think. We'll keep the conversation going. You can comment below. Next segment will be at 1 p.m., and I will see you all there.